Hi, everyone. Welcome to this evening's virtual event with Alka Joshi. My name is Carol Centers, and I'm the events director here at Bookshop Santa Cruz, where I'm broadcasting live. And here at Bookshop, community is vital to us, locally, nationally, and even globally. And it's because of your continued patronage that we're coming through the ongoing crisis of this global pandemic. As a values-driven independent bookstore, we hope the world we all return to looks different from the one we left. And we see these talks as a way to deepen and refresh in order to resume the vital work that is before us. We're so grateful to you for spending your resources and your evening with us, and we hope you find both refuge and inspiration here tonight. Tonight, we are so thrilled to celebrate the release of The Secret Keeper of Jaipur. And for those of you who have read it, I know you'll understand why. In a moment, I will welcome Alka to the screen, and she'll tell us a bit about her life and her work, and then she'll answer some of your questions as well. So there'll be a lot of audience questions, so you can definitely expect to be able to get your questions tonight. I'm going to give you a quick overview of the platform we're using before we get started here. So for those audience questions, you can pop those into a tab at the bottom of your screen that says Ask a Question. You can submit questions anytime as this event is ongoing. You can also view and upvote other questions as well. So that's where you can enter your audience questions. On the right side of your screen, of course, you see a chat window, and we love engaging in that sense of community as if we were all in a room together. But if you find it distracting, you can hide that by clicking on the little arrow at the top right there. This event is being recorded so that you can share it with others or relive your favorite moments. And right underneath the screen, I do want to point out the Buy the Book button. Your purchase supports local jobs and independent culture, and it shows the publisher that our audience here in Santa Cruz is invested and engaged in authors and author events. So your purchase makes such a big difference for the success of our program, and you definitely want this book on your shelf. So thank you so much for purchasing the book if you haven't already done so. I also want to express my gratitude for everyone that has donated to the event tonight. Every dollar makes a difference as we make our way back to in-person events. So thank you so much. We have a couple of great events coming up. I encourage you to check out our calendar online. We've got Helen McDonald, author of H is for Hawk. She's going to be here on Sunday, this Sunday at 11 a.m. to talk about her new book, Vesper Flights. And then at the end of August, we have Kat Chow coming for her incredible new memoir, Seeing Ghosts. That's going to be on August 30th. So definitely check out our calendar. I'll pop a link in the chat for that. But now on to the main attraction. Alka Joshi, New York Times bestselling author of The Henna Artist, is a graduate of Stanford University and received her MFA from the California College of the Arts. Alka has worked as an advertising copywriter, a marketing consultant, and an illustrator. She was born in India in the state of Rajasthan. Her family came to the United States when she was 9, and she now lives on California's Monterey Peninsula with her husband and 2 misbehaving pups. The Secret Keeper of Jaipur is her second novel, and it is so absorbing and lyrical. I can't wait to hear more about its creation and the Henna Artist as well. And I'm so excited to welcome Alka to our screens. Hello, thank you so much for being here.
Hi, thanks so much for having me, Carol, and thank you to Bookshop Santa Cruz. You guys are just right around the corner from me, basically. So in a pre-pandemic world, we would have been doing this live.
Absolutely, yes. But it's so nice to have you on your screen. I love your background, by the way, too. It's so beautiful.
Thank you.
All right, well, I'm going to be in the corner. I will join you at the end of the event, and I'm so looking forward to hearing all about the Henna Artist and the Secret Keeper of Jaipur.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody, and thanks so much for joining us. You know, I never thought that I would be an author, so this has come as a complete surprise to me that now I'm a full-time author, not only with one book, but with book number 2, and then book number 3, which I'm currently working on. The whole thing together is called the Jabra Trilogy. How did I come to write about a place that I haven't lived in since I was 9 years old? Well, it all started in 2008. There was this big global recession on. It was the mortgage crisis. And every time there was any kind of a recession, in my world of advertising and marketing, there was going to be like a 2-year slowdown in revenues. And I'd been running my own agency long enough to know that that recession would probably last about 2 years. So I thought, this time, what am I going to do with my life? I actually enjoyed these times off because I always found a lot of respite and relief in being able to just take time off and doing something else I wanted to do in my life. Sometimes I would go travel. Sometimes I would learn something new. Sometimes I would visit family. This time, I decided to take my husband's advice after 16 years. And he had been saying, I think you're going to be really good at writing fiction. And I said, no, I'm just an advertising hack. I write marketing copy. I write advertising copy. All I do is write these little mini stories that last about a minute or half a minute or 15 seconds even. He said, no, no, no. When we go to restaurants, you're constantly making up stories about people next to us. Even our friends, you're constantly making up stories about them. Maybe you would be really good at writing long form fiction. Just try it. So in 2008, I thought, all right, I'm going to enroll for the next couple of years in a master's program that's going to teach me how to write a novel. And that program, because we were living in San Francisco at the time, turned out to be at the California College of Arts. They had this wonderful program with instructors who had been writing books that I had been really enjoying. So I thought, okay, if I get to study with these people, this is going to be phenomenal. I'm going to learn a lot. At the same time that I started this program, and this was completely serendipitous, I was also traveling to Jaipur, which is exactly where my family used to live at one time and where most of our extended family still lives. And my younger brother had bought a condo there. So he said to my mom and dad, you guys, I bought this for you. I duded it up and I have a cook there and everything. Anytime you guys want to go visit, please do. So my mom said to me, let's go now. So we went in the summertime right before I started my program. And then we completed this. We did this many times, like maybe 4, 5, 6 times while I was in the program. What I would do is take my mom there. Then I would leave her there for a couple of months because she wanted to stay longer. I would go back and finish up a semester or come back during a break and then get mom again and take her back home. And so as we were doing this, I realized, this is more time than I have spent with my mother since I was 18 and went away to college. So it was like getting to know her all over again. And the kinds of things that she was sharing with me were things about her early girlhood and her childhood and her early marriage and also her early motherhood. Things were coming back to her. Memories were coming back as we were roaming around Jaipur. One of the things that she remembered when we went to the fruit market is she said, this is the kind of fruit I cannot get in the United States. I love this fruit. This is my favorite. I had no idea. We went to the Jaipur City Palace and we were taking a tour, and she remembered the time that she had an audience with the Maharani, who liked to meet the families of folks who were going to go abroad, as my father was going abroad to study for his doctoral thesis in civil engineering. And then when we hired a car to Agra, which, as you know, is where the Taj Mahal is, we hired a car and went out there, and we went to mom's old school. My mom had been largely schooled in Agra, even though her parents were living in Rajasthan, because her father was a district court judge, always being moved around. And he wanted for his oldest 2 children to have some kind of a stable school life. And so they were living with their grandparents at the ancestral home in Agra and going to school there. My mother was 18 years old and in college in her first year when her father called and said, honey, it's time to get married, and you're 18 years old. If I wait any longer to find a partner for you, it will be too late. You will be too old. And I've got 5 other sisters behind you who need to get married. So my mother goes home. She meets my dad from across the room. They do not get a chance to chat because there's all kinds of people roaming around this room. There's, neighbors who've come to gawk at this new couple and so on. So my mother finds the first time that she talks to my father is on their wedding night, or actually on the mandap when they are walking 7 times around the fire to seal their fate in marriage. So my mother then, after that, in 4 short years, she had 3 children. She never got to go back to college, and she never had an opportunity to have a career or have any kind of a life of her own. She was completely at the behest of the three of us, my two brothers and I, or my father, or her father, or my father's family. And because my father was one of those young engineers at a time when India was rebuilding itself post-colonization, post-independence, there are so many new dams and roads and bridges and buildings that are going up everywhere. And my father's involved in a lot of these projects. So he is being moved from project to project. And by the time I'm 9 years old, we have lived in 5 different cities in that area. So I thought to myself, it's remarkable that my mother, having been brought up in such a conventional way and having led such a conventional life, that she has encouraged me to always live a very independent life. So to me, she always said, you will choose your partner, you will choose your own career, you will choose whether or not you want to have children, how many and when to have them. That will all be up to you. And you get to make those decisions that I never got to make. But one thing I just want you to know is that you should absolutely know how to take care of yourself financially before you get married. This is super important. That way, if the marriage doesn't work out, and she was willing to allow that might happen, then you have options for the future. You have other things that you can do. And I have to say that I followed my mother's instructions to the letter, and I have lived a very independent life. I've lived in a lot of different countries, and I've done a lot of creative and wonderful things that I wanted to do. But I thought, I would love to have had a life like that for my mother, because I think she would have liked to have that life. I cannot change her life for her. But what I can do is create a fictional character. Now that I'm learning how to write a novel, how about if I create a fictional character who gets to live the life that I think my mother would have loved to live? So Lakshmi is born, and Lakshmi leaves her marriage after 2 years. And then she goes on to forge a life of her own. And she navigates this whole arena of this independent life on her own terms, even while the patriarchy is trying to get her into this limited life again. And I thought, this is a gift to my mother. So the Henna Artist becomes my thesis for my master's program. My mother knows what I'm working on. I share lots of bits of it. In fact, I wrote a lot of it in Jaipur when I was visiting her, and I would read aloud various portions. And my mother had 2 comments. One was, honey, Lakshmi is a Brahmin, but she's doing the work of a lower caste person. How did her family allow her to do that? Because she said, my family would never have allowed me to become a henna artist. So I said, oh, Mom, I need for this central character to be able to sit on the same divan as the ladies whom she services, but then also to be able to step inside the kitchen of these homes and get some intelligence about what's happening in the household from the staff. And so my mom said, okay, all right, I guess she could do that if there's no parents around to tell her that she's not allowed to do this. And then the other comment that she made was that Lakshmi's henna is so intricate and so involved. She said, honey, when I was married in 1955, my henna was very crude. It was applied by a finger. And so the paste would be applied here. And then maybe there would be like little dots that went up the fingers. And then maybe just the tips of the fingers would be in henna. And that's it. That's all there would be. And so she said, how is it that Lakshmi gets to do this very elaborate henna? And I said, oh, Mom, as a writer, I am learning that I get to take creative license. And when I take creative license, what that means is that I get to have my characters do extraordinary things that maybe weren't happening in real life. But I'm going to authenticate the novel in all kinds of other ways that let you know that the Henna Artist is taking place in 1950s India. My mom said, okay. Now, after I completed my MFA program, my mother needed a lot of help. I needed to take her to doctors. I needed to take her to the hospital. Finally, there was hospice, and we lost her within that year. And I thought, okay, well, I wrote this book for my mother. If she is no longer here, does it make any sense for me to continue writing this? Maybe this was just something I was going to do during the 2-year downtime of the recession and not really do anything with this novel. I put the novel away. By now, clients were calling me and saying, okay, we've got work. We're going to resume this project, So I'm back at work, and I'm immersing myself in that work. 2 years later, one of my thesis advisors calls and she said, Alka, what did you do with that novel? We thought you'd be published by now and nothing is happening. And I said, oh, well, here's what happened to my mom and so on. And she said, listen, I've got some ideas on where I think you should take this novel. Pull it out. Let's work on it. You can keep working on your work for marketing and advertising, but let's just keep working on this novel. So we did. And as we're working on it, I am coming up with some interesting, ways that I can take the story. I have the basic plot down, but it's really learning how to go deeper into characters and deciding which scenes are the most important that we're working on now. A year and a half later, I send her another draft. And lo and behold, she sends it to her agent. Next thing I know, Emma Sweeney from New York is calling me and saying, Alka, I love this book. I love this story. I love Lakshmi. We've got to work on this together. And I think, hallelujah, I have never even been looking for a literary agent. And here I've got one at my doorstep. I'm going to be published. And Emma said, no, not just yet. You've got work to do on this novel. Over the next 3 years, she has me cut out about 150 pages. I start all over again from page 1 of the novel. And she has me write backstory for some people. She has me eliminate backstory for other people. She has me write future stories for all of these people. She really helps me to get to know these characters in a much deeper sense than I had before. But at the end of 3 years, I said, Emma, when are we ever going to show this to a publisher? Isn't that the goal? And she said, well, gosh, I'm just a literary agent. I'm not an editor. You need an editor to help you through this process. They're called developmental editors. So I said, okay, give me a name. So she does. And I hire this woman, a wonderful woman named Sandra Schofield. She teaches at the Iowa Writers Workshop in the summers. She's a novelist in her own right. And she sends me back the loveliest things about the Henna Artist, the story. She loves the story. She loves the characters. But here are some things that she thinks I could do differently with the plot. And I think to myself, that's not what I wanted to hear. I really wanted to hear that I was ready to be published. So I think I need another editor because maybe Sandra's not quite getting the picture here. I hire yet another editor, Ronit Wagman. And Ronit looks over the whole manuscript and she sends me back even more pages of comments and suggestions. And now I'm like, okay, I just wasted all of that money and wasted all of that time because really I should be ready to be published now. It's been 7.5 years since I first started working on this novel. This is ridiculous. I got so frustrated having to do even more and more and more edits all the time that I just gave up. I just thought, you know what? I don't think I'm meant to be a writer. I don't think I'm meant to be a novelist. I don't think this is meant to be published. And I put the manuscript away again, went back to work. About a year and a half later, I am looking in my desk drawer for something and I run across this manuscript. And I think to myself, I wrote that. Look at all those fat pages. I wrote all of those pages. And I pull it out and I start reading it. And as I'm reading it, I'm thinking, wow, this is a pretty good story. I'm interested in knowing where Lakshmi is going and where Malik is going and where Radha is going. And I had that experience that I'm sure many of you have had, where you looked at something that you created a long time ago. Maybe it was a garden, maybe it was a dress, maybe whatever it was. And you think to yourself, I can't believe I did that. Did I have the energy and the time and the wherewithal to create that? And so I thought, okay, let me look at those editorial comments again from those two editors. Maybe they were saying something I didn't quite get. So I went back, I start looking through their editorial comments, and I realized that they're saying this book is definitely going to get published, but whether or not it becomes a bestseller is up to you. And it's these fine points that we're trying to point out. Those are the things that you need to pay attention to. That is what makes the difference between a book that just gets published and a book that becomes a bestseller. So I thought, okay, let me try to see what I can do with some of their suggestions. And a year and a half later, I send in another draft to Emma Sweeney. And I say, Emma, okay, it's been 9 years since I first started this project. I would really love it if you would send this off to a publisher. And she did. So then within a couple of months, she has sold it to HarperCollins and the imprint called Mira Books under them. So Mira Books now has their own editor. And I have a new editor who wants me to yet change more things in the novel, but that's okay because I have a signed contract and I'm really excited. Now, at the time of the signed contract, there is still another 18 months to 24 months to go before the book is published. That's just the way that the publishing world works. And so this is a traditional publishing house, I should say. That's how that works. And so during that year and a half, 2 years, what we're doing is I'm working with my editor on the final edits she would like to see, and we're going back and forth and back and forth. The art department is coming up with a beautiful cover, and I think I have the best art department in the world at HarperCollins, because look at this gorgeous cover for the Henna Artist and this gorgeous cover for the Secret Keeper. I think these are both tremendous. So the marketing department is looking at my title and they're saying, you know what, maybe we can come up with a better title for Alka. And eventually they say to me, is it all right if we just call this the Henna Artist? Because we think that this is a better title than anything you've come up with. And I think that they were right in the end. And absolutely, I'm willing to listen to anybody who knows more than I do about a certain topic. They knew more about titles that go on books. They also know way more than I do about how to make a cover that is going to make somebody pull that book off the shelf, just like they did with book number 2. So meanwhile, the sales department is doing a bang-up job selling this book. Now, HarperCollins had flown me out to New York, had flown me out to Toronto, had me meet with booksellers. And even then, I didn't realize that they were treating this book very differently from other books. And finally, when the marketing manager was putting me back on the plane, I said, this is so cool that you guys treat your authors in this way. And they said, well, this is not how we treat every author, Alka. We are planning for the Henna Artist to be a really big book for 2020. So that is why you're getting this royal treatment. Until then, I didn't even realize. And so we are all expecting now the release date, and we are all expecting stars and fireworks and everything for the release date, which had been set at the time that we signed this contract. The contract release date was March the 10th, 2020. Sales department has all these books sitting in all the independent bookstores, in Target's warehouse, in Walmart's warehouse, in Costco's warehouse. They have sold it into all these online platforms and all the Barnes and Nobles across the country, and of course to the Bookshop Santa Cruz. And now we're just waiting for the release date so we can finally say, hey, the book is out. On March the 11th, 2020, the World Health Organization announced that we were in the middle of a global pandemic, which means you had to shelter in place and nobody gets to go out for toilet paper because that's going to get delivered to your house now. And I remember thinking at that time, as I'm sure a lot of people did, oh, this will be over in a month. This will be over in a month and a half. Well, it didn't matter, because given the release of the Henna Artist and given all the launch activities that I had signed up, the possibility of me having a launch event completely disappeared. Every book signing was canceled. Every conference I was supposed to be in was canceled. Every panel discussion I was supposed to be a part of is canceled. Every book festival is canceled that I'm supposed to go to. And soon enough, libraries shut down and bookstores shut down. And even online platforms stopped shipping out books. They're only going to ship out to you your toilet paper and your bar soap that you desperately need. And I just thought, what in the world, what karma am I carrying around from my past life that has caused this to happen? I cannot believe this is happening. I cannot believe that after 10, 12 years on a book, this is suddenly happening to me. So I did what every self-respecting adult would do. I went to bed, I pulled the covers over my head, and I gave myself a pity party. And that lasted about 2 days until I thought, okay, what can I do to help? What can I do now that I'm on lockdown at home, just like everybody else is, to let people know that I've written this book? About a year prior, my editor had me get on social media. She said, authors are perfect for social media because you don't have to talk about yourself as a person. You can just talk about your books. You can talk about the beautiful cuisine that you talk about, the Indian food that you talk about in both books. You can talk about your mother as your inspiration. You can show pictures of her. You can show pictures of places you guys used to live in Jaipur and in Rajasthan. you can talk about anything that's Indian, Indian customs, Indian traditions. And so I had been doing that, and I had developed a following. So I went to that following and I said, hey, you guys, you're on lockdown and I'm on lockdown. Could we please have a chat about my book? And just in case you happen to get an early copy, a digital copy, an audio copy. And they responded. And so tonight, I think this is my 462nd presence before an audience virtually, just to talk about my book. I've gotten so used to this that I'm not even sure I can handle now an in-person event, but I'm sure I'll manage. So anyway, so we get, we get going on book clubs, and they've got radio interviews lined up for me. My publisher's trying to do everything they can to try to get me exposure. And then a few weeks later, I get a call from my editor, Kathy. Alka, are you sitting down? And I thought, oh my God, now the warehouses are on fire and all the books are gone. They have burned up. But they said, no. She said, Reese Witherspoon is going to announce your book as her book pick for May 2020. And I had absolutely no idea that it would ever get picked up by a book club. Remember, I'm the one who didn't even realize that HarperCollins had intended for this to be this huge book. So they had actually sent it out to all these scouts who are always looking for, properties for their clients. And so then for the next 4 weeks, I'm working with Hello Sunshine and giving them all this social media content that I've been developing for my platforms. And they're putting it on Reese's platforms. They have me do a couple of cooking videos. They sponsor a video where I'm talking to my friend Neha Asser, who is a henna artist down in Los Angeles. And she's showing people how to do different henna designs. I also have my older brother Madhup design a Maharani cocktail for the older Maharani who likes to water her orchids with her gin and tonics, because I like gin and tonics, so why not? And so as we're doing all of this, May 1st approaches, and I get to talk to the Reese Witherspoon. Now, I'm just going to take a moment here and thank Reese Witherspoon for this amazing thing that she has done for female authors. She has made it possible for female authors to talk about their books. She gave us a platform because her big thing was, I love these books by female authors. I love these strong female protagonists that they're talking about. They inspire me, and they inspire all of my friends whom I turn on to these books. And so she thought, why don't the publishing houses also promote these same books and these same authors? She thought, if they won't do it, I'll use my influence to do it. I'll put together a platform where we can do this. And so in 4 short years, Reese Witherspoon has turned that publishing industry around, and they take notice now of her. And what she has essentially done is turn that New York Times bestseller list, which used to be largely male. Now she's got 4, 5, 6 books on there all the time that are her recommendations. That is the power of Reese Witherspoon. Thank you, Reese. So suddenly I talked to her on May 1st. By May 14th, I'm getting calls from movie studios about optioning the rights to this book. And then by May 29th, we are on the New York Times bestseller list, the LA Times bestseller list, the USA Today, the Globe and Mail, everything. All right. So what happens with the TV people or movie people is this. I don't know anything about that world. I don't know how to look at contracts. I don't know anything like that. So now I'm signed up with a screen management agency in Los Angeles called the Gotham Group. The Gotham Group is headed by CEO Ellen Goldsmith Vane. Ellen asks me the first big, really important question, and I already knew the answer to it. She said, do you want the Henna Artist to be a movie or a TV series? I said, Ellen, I'm a bingeable whore. I love binging on shows on Netflix, on HBO, on Hulu. I love watching one episode after another. I cannot help myself. So I would love to see the Henna Artist with all its complexity, all its complex characters, this backdrop of the political climate of post-independence India, and also this whole idea of classes and castes and colorism. There's a lot going on, and I don't think 90-minute would do justice to this as a movie. So let's ask for a TV series. She said, great. She went back to all of the interested parties and said, the author would like a TV series. Oh my God, I felt so important. I felt so empowered in that moment. So they all came back with proposals, and I ended up Zooming with all of them and talking to them about what their vision for this product was. And I came up with this decision. First of all, I didn't even know that I would get to make this decision. It's really empowering to make a huge decision like this. But I chose the team of Michael Edelstein, who had been in charge of NBC Universal Studios in London when Downton Abbey was being filmed. And he is largely responsible for turning it into a season after season after season product, and also all of the subsequent movies that have come out of it. And so when he read The Henna Artist, he said, this has all the elements of Downton Abbey. We could make The Henna Artist an Indian Downton Abbey. Because we've got the upstairs class, the downstairs class, we've got all these stories of different characters threaded through. We can make this a season after season kind of thing. So he calls up his friend Frida Pinto. Wouldn't it be wonderful to be able to say, I called up my friend Frida Pinto? So he calls up his friend and he says, Frida, I'm going to send you this product. I really want you to look at it. It's called The Henna Artist, and I think you might be interested. So she reads it and she calls him back and says, oh my gosh, Michael, I not only want to star as Lakshmi, but I also want to executive produce this because I have all those contacts in India that you're going to need. So he said, okay. And then he has a first look deal with Miramax TV. So he went to them and said, okay, this is a product that I would like to buy. Would you like to invest? And they said, absolutely. So now I have this fabulous team and the Henna Artist is in development. And if everything goes well, fingers and toes crossed, we are going to start filming in late 2022 or early 2023. So that is what's happening with the TV series. And I'm so excited, you know, like I, for the first time in my life, I have a lawyer. I never had a lawyer before. I have an entertainment lawyer. All right. So now after we put the Henna Artist to bed and before, you know, when we put the Henna Artist to bed, what that basically means is that it's still going to go through a proofing process. Somebody is going to go through and make sure that there are no widows and, you know, all orphans and all of that. And then, of course, it's going to go to the printer, and then all the PR people are going to start doing their work. So there's still 6 months to go before we're going to see it go to the warehouses. So I start working on book number 2, which turns out to be The Secret Keeper of Jaipur. As I was putting the finishing touches on the Henna Artist, Malik started chomping at my imagination. Malik is the 8-year-old helper. He prefers to be 8 in the Henna Artist. And he just started telling me, okay, you got to tell my story. You already have the bare bones of my story in the Henna Artist that didn't make it into this book. So now you can tell everybody what my life was about. And I started working on his story. I was 20 pages in, and you know, my agent said, let's send this off to the publisher. And I said, well, I'm not really sure where it's, you know, how it's going to end. And she said, not to worry. Let's just see what they think. Well, HarperCollins bought it. On the strength of 20 pages, they bought it right away. And I said to my agent, I go, how is it that they're buying book number 2 and book number 1 isn't even out in the store yet? And she said, don't look a gift horse in the mouth. They obviously think that they can sell both books. So I said, okay. So I start working in earnest on The Secret Keeper. And it didn't take me very long at all to figure out the whole story. And then, of course, several drafts later, then I kind of have it in a polished form and I send it off to my editor. And then she works on it with me over the next year. So this is The Secret Keeper, just came out in a couple of weeks ago. And we're really excited about this because this is a continuation of all these characters. And one thing that I keep hearing from all of my readers around the world, as you know, the Henna Artist has been published in 23 or 24 languages, and The Secret Keeper of Jaipur is starting to be published in all these other languages as well. So one thing that, you know, I know for sure is that these books are resonating with people from around the world. And the readers tell me that reading the sequel is like catching up with old friends. And you get to know 12 years after the Henna Artist ends, what happened to Malik after he got that fancy boarding school education? What happened to Lakshmi and Dr. Kumar? Did they get married? If they did, is that a good marriage? Is that not a good marriage? What happened to Ravi and Sheila? they were supposed to get married at the end of the Henna Artist. And so did they get married? And what is that marriage like? And also, how is Lakshmi dealing with the fact that she was a parent figure to Malik for the last 12 years? She basically took him on as a ward. And is she okay with letting him go and having a love life now? Because he is involved at this point in The Secret Keeper with a tribal woman who is from the Himalayas. And yet again, I get to do all this research and I get to tell my readers about another society within India that they may have never heard of before. And that, of course, is the Nomadic Tribe, all the tribes that go up and down the Himalayas seasonally to herd their sheep and their goats and their water buffalo. All right, so that is what's going on with The Secret Keeper. Book number 3 is about Radha. So now that I've let you know what's happening in Malik's life, I'm going to take you to 1973 Paris, where Radha is living with her French husband and her 2 little girls. She is a lab assistant to a master perfumer. So I get to do all this research on fragrances, which I absolutely am adoring. She's on the cusp of designing a signature scent for her master perfumer. There's a knock on her door, and somebody that she hasn't seen for 18 years from the Henna Artist is on the other side of that door, and he wants answers about his birth mother. So that's book number 3. That's all I'll tell you so far. And that's going to be out in 2023, right around the time that we start filming the TV series. All right, now I'm ready for questions. All right, so let me look at these questions. Can you give clues about the next book in the trilogy? I just did, my dear. So Sarah, thank you so much for your question. Christy is asking, have you had any inkling of other books beyond this trilogy? Do you think you may write about your experience as an Indian American set in America? You know, I think that there are already so many books out right now that are coming from South Asians who are talking about their immigrant experience in America. And I think that they're all valuable, and they're all, giving you that experience of what it's like to be the other in an environment. So I think there's plenty of people doing that. So I'm not going to be writing about my life. I may write an article or 2, but I'm not going to be writing about my life. I think I will always be sort of imagining other stories. I do have this other story in mind once this trilogy finishes, and it's going to be about an Indian Hungarian painter. She lived in the 1910s and 1920s. She died very early. She died at the age of 28. And she was phenomenal in terms of being an Impressionist painter at a time when Impressionism wasn't a big in South Asia at all. But she had gone to Paris at the École des Beaux-Arts, and she had studied there. She'd also gone to Florence to study. So she's kind of a fascinating character, and I might write about her and fictionalize her life. Thank you so much for your question, Christy. Holly says, I really enjoyed both books. Thank you, Holly. Yay. Beautifully written. I really enjoyed the journey. Did you identify with a character in particular? All right. So for me, Lakshmi is the character that I identify with. Number one, she looks just like my mother. She has my mother's eye color. And, you can probably tell on this crowdcast that I also have kind of this blue-gray eye color. So, in our family, my younger brother also ended up with hazel eyes. So we all have that kind of eye color that Lakshmi and Radha and Nikki have. And she looks like my mother. She has my mother's resilience, but Lakshmi also has the kind of, I think, obstacles I ran into in the corporate world. And there are many obstacles that we women run into in the corporate world. And I think that, gender equality was so important to me that when I finally went off and started my own agency, I really felt so empowered. I just felt like I don't have to be in this box that somebody else set up for me anymore. I can determine my own life. And I think this is where Lakshmi gets her idea about determining her own life by setting up her own business, doing her own thing, having her own clients, and then expanding her business into matchmaking. So I think that is a character I relate to the most, Lakshmi. But the character I think that was the most fun for me to write was actually the older Maharani. Love her. the older Maharani is so bawdy. She is, she's drinking those gin and tonics. She is ordering around that talking parakeet because she named him after her husband, who would not allow her any power at all, wouldn't even allow her to become a mother. And so she is now getting her agency back by ordering the parakeet around, whom she has named after her late husband. So I liked her. She's just so eccentric, and she's got a lot of pluck, and she comes back in The Secret Keeper. And we see that now that both Maharanis are widowed, how much more agency they have, how much more power they have, how much more empowered they feel. And I think that this is super, super important. Just I think being a feminist and just being aware of how much women contribute to society, how much they raise the next generation, how important it is to recognize and appreciate the females in life. I just think it's so important that we do that. And I've tried to imbue both of these books with a very strong feminist streak where the women are concerned. And of course, the men whom you're going to end up loving, Dr. Kumar and Malik, are absolutely the kind of men that women like me are attracted to. All right, let's see. Here's a comment. I really appreciate you sharing the journey of 10 plus years preparing the book. Can you speak a little more to being true to your original vision self while receiving and utilizing the guidance of multiple editors? Literary resilience. Slightly smiling face. I like that, slightly smiling face. I think that it's hard to know exactly which pieces of advice to take and which pieces not to take. So I think you have to keep asking yourself the 3 important questions about your work if you are looking at feedback from other people. So these 3 questions are: number 1, what's my intention for this book? What is it that I'm trying to communicate? Make sure that you ask yourself that regularly as you're writing, because your intention can change over time, but also your intention solidifies as you write more and more and clearer drafts. Your intention will solidify. The second thing you need to ask yourself is, why are you writing this story? So what is your reason for writing this story? For me, writing The Henna Artist was really about reimagining a life for my mother and giving her that life that I think she always desperately wanted, that more independent life. What is your reason for writing your story? And then the third question to ask is, why now? Why do you want to write this story now, as opposed to 3 years from now, as opposed to 10 years ago? Why is it more important for you is it because you've developed a voice over time? Is it because you have the self-confidence to know that you can express yourself better? What is it that is compelling you to write this story? So I think that those are 3 questions that really help you when you're trying to assess whether the feedback that is being given to you is feedback you want to do something with or don't want to do something with. I think that it took me many years to understand feedback that I wanted to do something with, and feedback that I thought, that's really not my intention for the novel. I think they are having a different vision for my novel than I am. So that is definitely something that you can look at and study and sort of go, okay, maybe I want to do that. Maybe I don't want to do that. So, so Sarah says, no fair. We have to wait till 2023 for book 3. Sarah, I got to write it first, honey. Let's see. So Bookshop Santa Cruz says, love Reese. Thank you so much for that little plug to Reese Witherspoon. I do think that she picks some amazing books. She's also picking a lot of books that are writers of color. And, that's super important to me. And I think super important for us all everywhere, because the more we understand about other cultures and the way that they perceive the world, the better off we all are in understanding, each other. So, and accepting each other. So absolutely. Let's see. I love this. People are so sweet, writing all of these things in here. Really enjoyed the Henna Artist, full of sensory experience. Nicole says, wonderful to have the chance to hear her speak. Thank you so much. Christy says, salutations from Salinas, California. Love the first book in the Jabra Trilogy and can't wait to read on and find out more about this world. Sarah says, I'm in Ohio. I'm so glad I'm able to join. Wouldn't have been able to do that if it wasn't virtual. You know, I totally feel that too. So in the last year and a half, I have been able to talk to 6,000 people. That's how many people have been in all of these libraries and book clubs and you know, this whole world of virtual sort of interviews that I have done also. I think that, you know, technology can really help us. And in this case, it really, I think, connected us all together. And I'm able to talk to people virtually in a very, you know, I'm doing it from the comfort of my home. I have my pajamas on underneath, which you can't see. So I don't really have to get fully dressed, just dress from here on up. And so it becomes really easy for me to sort of be down here and feel really comfortable while I'm talking to you. If I were with you, like in a large setting or something, you know, I might be more worried about, you know, do I have the right shoes on? Should I cross my legs or cross my ankles? Oh gosh, I don't know. So yeah, I think that the virtual world has been very helpful to us authors, and it's really helped. By the way, my publisher says because of the pandemic and because of the fact that people couldn't be with each other, the sales of ebooks and audiobooks went through the roof. So I just think that's wonderful. So the Henna Artist and all of the hundreds of thousands of people who have bought the Henna Artist, we have almost an even split between hardcover, ebooks, and audiobooks. Can you believe that? That never used to happen before the pandemic. And also because I chose this narrator for the Henna Artist to do Lakshmi's voice, and she did such a phenomenal job. Oh my God, she sounds just like the Lakshmi in my head. So she did such a phenomenal job that people kept telling each other, buy that audiobook, buy the audiobook. And so now for the Secret Keeper, I have 3 voices in here. I have Lakshmi in some chapters, I have Malik in other chapters, and I have Nimmi, our new character, the nomadic woman, as a 3rd voice. And so in this one, we have 3 actors. We brought back Sneha, who's doing the voice of Lakshmi again in The Secret Keeper, but then we have 2 new characters, a younger actor, male actor, and a younger female actor who are doing the other 2 parts. And it just sounds fabulous. And I know that my readers are super excited about the audiobook of The Secret Keeper as well. So, you know, the pandemic may have slowed some things down, but other things they really accelerated. And one was a sale of books, sale of audiobooks, and sale of ebooks. And so I'm really happy that bookshops like Santa Cruz are able to survive even during a pandemic. I think that's really remarkable. And I think it's a testament to the community of Santa Cruz that the Bookshop Santa Cruz is also thriving, because it really takes a lot of local support to keep independent bookstores going. And don't we all just love going into an independent bookstore and asking, what do you think I should read? Or you read the information from the staff picks. I love looking at those, because staff picks to me seem very genuine. And when they say, you know, this, I just couldn't put this book down, I believe them, because they're not saying that about every book. They're just saying that about this particular book that they picked out. So I do think that it's really wonderful. And thank goodness for people like Corel, who are, you know, working at Bookshop Santa Cruz and helping point people towards books that they might like. You know, one question I haven't, here's a question. Let's see if I can answer this. It sounds like you have projects going on. Do you have to get in the zone to write? How do you focus on one thing when there are so many projects in different phases? And this is from Liv. All right. Liv, this is really interesting. I think that having my own business for 30 years has trained me, disciplined me into compartmentalizing. And I'm so able to do that. Like when I'm thinking about the Henna Artist, I'm only thinking about the Henna Artist. When I'm thinking about the Secret Keeper, I'm only thinking about that. I have the ability to laser focus. And I think that is experiential. And I think it's also kind of a part of my personality. I can actually physically, mentally focus on something very concentrated for a very long time. So it's just something that I think I'm able to do. But also because I've had my own business, I understand deadlines. I understand how important it is to meet deadlines because there's so many other people waiting for your product at the end of that deadline so they can do other things with it. They need to do other things with it. So I always meet my deadlines. I always keep my publisher apprised of my progress. I keep notebooks. Okay, so I'll show you guys. There's like a ton of notebooks here. And I take a lot of notes as I research. I research before I ever write. Okay, so you should know that. I research. I make lots of notes. And then let's see here. I have these tiny little notebooks. These tiny little notebooks, and this is where I do all of my research notes. And then what I do is I'll go back over a book and I will start highlighting different pieces that I wrote in here. I'll start highlighting things that I think are the most important for me to include in the narrative. And then I make a separate list of all of the things that I've isolated in all these many books for one story. And then when I have all of that down, I will know as I'm writing the highlights down, I go, okay, I know that this particular little fact that I have picked out is going to be great for this scene between Nimmi and Malik. So that is something I'm going to put there. The other thing that I do, and I think this is also important for you to know, the other thing that I do is I visualize scenes in my head. And I think, once again, this comes from the fact that I'm an artist first and foremost. And that is really what I did my whole life before I became a writer. I always thought I would be an artist. Hey, look at me now. I always thought I would be the one who'd be like painting or drawing or, whatever. And then that would end up in some gallery somewhere. So I thought that was going to be my life. And it turned out, no, I didn't have that kind of talent. So I thought, I'll be an art director in an ad agency. So there I am in 1988. I was up in the 7th floor of McCann Erickson in San Francisco, and I'm showing them my portfolio. And they said, so what do you want to be? And I said, I want to be an art director. And they said, why do you want to be an art director when you can write? You wrote these headlines and you wrote this body copy. And I said, well, because I'm an artist. And they said, we'll hire you as a writer. Okay. So that's how I got started in writing advertising copy. But I think that the ability to be able to do art and write at the same time sort of keeps me doing these little scenes and movies in my head. So there's always scenes playing in my head that are around the story. The scenes are all about, the characters that I have. They're moving around, they're doing things. I see exactly what they're wearing. I see what else is in the room. I see the furniture. I see whether there's a candle blowing. I see whether, there's drapes that are moving in the wind, what season it is. And then once I have worked enough with this scene in my head, I'm editing it in my head all the time. So as I edit it in my head, and once I get it completely down, then I will put it down on my laptop. That's how I write. And it's a very different way than anybody else might write. Every writer has their own process, but that one is mine. And so my scenes are like mini movies in my head. I write them down and then I thread them all together like a necklace. So that's, I hope that doesn't sound too crazy. All right. Another question is from Johnny. Does Audible suggest narrators, or do you get to communicate to the narrator about the voice and characters? I got to communicate. So this was really great. It actually comes from Harper Audio. So Harper Audio sent me 5 audition tapes, and had me listen to them. And I couldn't find Lakshmi's voice in any one of them. So I went to Audible, and you know how you can listen to the first 5 minutes on Audible of anything for free. So I looked at the Audible library, and I looked at all of these books that were written by South Asians, and then I started listening to them, and I realized, hey, I really love this particular woman's voice. I think it sounds just like Lakshmi. So I went back to Harper Audio and I said, could you please have this particular narrator read the same section that everybody else read? They did, and I knew that was, she just nailed it. So that's something that I got to play a part in. So this time when they were doing the audio for The Secret Keeper, they just left it all up to me. They said, okay, who would you like? Who would you like to play all of these 3 parts? And then, I got to work and started listening to a whole bunch of different actors and decided on a couple that do audio narration for books. It's a particular kind of skill that not everybody has, a page after page after page to be able to read a book and then also to assume the voices of the many characters that are within each point of view. Okay, what are your favorite media for your artwork? Well, sketching is really easy, right? Because all I need is a pen and I need a piece of paper. So I love to sketch, and I have been sketching my dogs for a really long time. And I hope one day I will be in a New Yorker and have one of those books and have one of those cartoons in the New Yorker, just like my heroine, Roz Chast. I love Roz Chast, and I love those New Yorker cartoons that she does. So maybe someday I'll have an opportunity to do that. But sketching, pencil drawings, and pen drawings are my favorites. What books am I reading or have I read lately? Well, I am going to tell you about a couple of different books. One of them is something, where is it? One of them is something that my husband wrote, and I have to tell you about this, or I may never have to, live at home again. But no, I want to tell you about it because I think that he is such an amazing writer, and he is the reason that I write today. He is the reason. I fell in love with his writing before I fell in love with him. And I just love the way that he is able to get characters within a few strokes of his pen. He is able to outline a character, which is really amazing. So this book is called How I Met You, and it's by Bradley J. Owens, and it's a whole bunch of his short stories. So I hope Bookshop Santa Cruz listen to this, and I hope you'll be ordering this book also because it is wonderful. And there's a story in here called The Circle of Stones, which I think really should be a movie because it's one of the best coming of age stories, like a Tobias Wolff story that I have ever read. I just recently read Christy Lefteri's new book called Songbirds. She's the one who wrote The Beekeeper of Aleppo, and Songbirds is just as quiet and melodic and beautiful and gorgeous. And it's about these domestic workers in Cyprus and what happens to them when nobody is sort of looking out for their safety. So that was a lovely book. I spoke also to, let's see, who else? Last year I read 2 books that I absolutely loved. And one of them was Pachinko by Min Jin Lee. I'm sure you've read that. And the other one was All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. I just thought those were beautiful books. I also have read, I'm going to forget because I read like 6 or 7 books a month and I can't remember them all. And I read this wonderful book by another South Asian writer. One book I read was The Last Exiles by Anne Shin, and that was all about North Korean defectors from that totalitarian regime. It's told in a novel form, but she is actually a documentarian. She did a beautiful job on that. And then another book was The Far Field by Madhuri Vijay, which I really enjoyed reading. And I hope to meet her someday because I think that she's remarkable for such a young woman to have written such an elegant book and very complicated about the war up in Kashmir. So that is, I think, it for tonight. I think that we are at the 8 o'clock hour. So Corral, do you want to come back? Hi.
Back. Hi. Thank you so much. What an others. The chat is blowing up with just adoration for how wonderful of a speaker you are. Thank you so much. Usually it's like that question of what you're reading is actually your mind kind of freezes, I've noticed, one's mind. And so I'm very impressed with that you listed 8 books right off the top. That was amazing. And what an honor to spend the evening with you. So much insight, so engaging. And I just learned so much. I can't wait to, just dip back in at certain passages when I have that, the notebooks and everything. I just love getting that background, and it just makes me want to dip on back to the book. So thank you so much. A reminder to our fabulous audience, you can click buy the book right underneath the screen to get your copy of The Secret Keeper of Jaipur. Definitely pick those up, and we will have our fingers crossed to maybe welcome you in 2023. Who knows, maybe virtual events will still be going at that point. There are benefits to them, but otherwise we would love to welcome you to the store. And in the meantime, I hope to welcome you into Bookshop just on a shopping trip.
Thank you, Corral. This has been so amazing. I have loved talking to you all. I feel like I can see you all, even though I can't really see you. I feel your presence, and thank you so much for being here. And thank you for buying my books. I really appreciate it. I'm so grateful for every reader.
Beautiful. All right. Well, we'll see you down the road. Thanks, everyone, and have a great night.